Welcome back. One key topic from last night's final presidential debate, the economy. Let's look at it. Joe Biden touted new jobs with his climate plan. He said it would create jobs. President Trump fired back at what a Biden presidency would do to the economy. Take a listen.
We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million existing homes and retrofit them so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating significant number of jobs. And by the way, the whole idea of what this is all going to do, it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake.
We are on the road to success, but I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen. Your 401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
Joining me right now is UBS Wealth Management's chief economist, Paul Donovan. Paul, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I love what you guys over there at UBS have been doing in terms of coming up with different buckets of stocks that would do well under both scenarios. First, talk about the economy and taxes. What President Trump was just talking about was these very expensive big government programs that Joe Biden is talking about implementing, like the Green Deal. He's calling it an infrastructure deal, which is, of course, hundreds. Some people say $100 trillion. And then there's the tax rates, taking the combined capital gains taxes and dividends taxes up from 23.8% to 43.4%. What's the impact of each candidate's plans, in your view?
Well, of course, part of the problem is we need to know what happens with the Senate. We can't go blithely assuming that either President Trump or a possible President Biden will be able to implement their plans in the normal way. But if we get the substantial plans, I think that you would probably get more of a fiscal boost to the economy with President Biden at the start of next year, because frankly, we just don't think the tax increases will happen, at least not early on in the presidency. And there's more of a commitment to the infrastructure program. President Trump would be looking at tax cuts, but also possibly at more tax increases as well. Remember, President Trump has raised taxes through the trade taxes on American companies and consumers. So you've got to balance this stuff out. What we're really talking about here, I think, is that both candidates are proposing policies that would be beneficial to the economy, but different sectors would fare differently depending on which candidate comes in and on what the composition of, in particular, the Senate would be after January of next year.
Which is why, under a Biden win, you want to look at things like renewables and electric vehicles, and under a President Trump further second term, you want to look at things like defense companies or perhaps healthcare. How do you break it down in terms of where the growth in the economy will be under Biden, under Trump?
So this is exactly it. You've clearly got two candidates with quite different points of focus into where they're going. So Vice President Biden has been proposing a shift towards more renewable energy. Now, we know from Europe's experience that that can be very creative in terms of jobs. It can be quite significant in terms of generating economic growth, provided you get it right. I mean, this is always assuming that the policies work. With President Trump, clearly, I think the export sector would be perhaps a little bit more nervous about further trade taxes, but then you would be seeing support for the defense sector coming through, healthcare sector coming through. So this is the sort of division that we're talking about in terms of the composition. I think at this stage, the disruption to the markets would probably be greater with President Trump, in as much as you get more shifts coming through there. The market is probably now more priced towards President Biden's policies than President Trump's policies.
All right, we'll leave it there. Paul, it's great to get your insights. Thank you, sir. Paul Donovan joining us this morning from UBS.